Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. I'm Celine and this is a space for neopolymaths, visionaries, innovators who understand that wealth is more than just money. It's energy, knowledge, and sovereignty. Here we bridge the esoteric with technology, unraveling the mysteries of quantum finance, decentralized systems, and the architecture of reality itself. Together we forge a new paradigm shift where code, consciousness, and creation converge. All right, so how's your week been? Grab your drink. Our drink for today is mango pineapple. I think it's one of those with like vegetables. I love fruity drinks. I feel like if I get enough vitamin C, I feel a lot happier. Maybe it's just me. But anyway, these past couple weeks has been a lot energetically. If you have been following astrology, we know that Neptune has moved to Aries and it was in Pisces before. So it was a lot of challenging kind of transmutation we've all been going through. But now we're really going to start feeling a lot of new energy. We're going to be recharged. This is like a whole new paradigm. Just looking back of how far I've gone when I was still 19 years old and I was so lost. Yesterday, I went to Barnes & Noble and I was picking up some books. I was doing my scripting and writing there. I was thinking about my first mentor. And today, I wanted to talk to you about my experiences of having mentors and how they really have shaped who I am now. My very first mentor, his name was Dr. Tanner. Me and my family moved here from Asia when I was 16. At 19, I left home. I was in a new country. I didn't have a lot of new friends. I felt lost and my mom was kind of abusive. I said to myself that if I was going to make it out alive, I'm going to do it my way. I was working 2 jobs. I was a server at Olive Garden and I was terrible at it. I would always spill margaritas and water on guests. I would drop plates of pasta and just massive respect to the servers because I could not do it. Those plates were heavy and I'd come home at 10 p.m., do my homework. On weekends, I worked at a jeweler and, having a full load of college classes, it was hard to juggle everything. It was hard because I was paying for my tuition and I did not want to be in debt or, ask for money from my parents. I did all kinds of odd jobs. Sometimes my shift would end pretty late and I would have to close. I would ride the bus and sometimes there's weird people. I had a rude awakening for my sheltered life and I quickly had to do something else and find a way so that I can buy my own car and provide for myself. Eventually, I got a job as a patient coordinator, and the universe really put me at the office of the chief of hospital at that time. And so I started working there. I thought that checking in people was kind of dumb. I wanted to do something else. I wanted to learn more and get challenged. I love taking shortcuts, and because I'm very delusional, I walked into the office of the chief of hospital and I told him that I wanted to work for him instead. He had 2 other assistants, but I wanted to be on their team. And so he took me out of my old position, so I became one of his assistants. I followed him everywhere and stayed with him for years until his 2 other assistants went to med school. Whoever joined him always ended up going to med school. And I thought that I was gonna go to med school, but during my time there, my perception eventually changed. However, I did not end up going to med school. I just continued with my population health. And so Dr. Tanner, everybody was kind of scared of him because he was the boss of all the doctors. Doctors looked up to him and he was a major in the army before, but he was such an incredible mentor to me. He was very strict and methodical of his ways, but he also had a daughter that was my age, and I think he saw that in me because my dad, he left when I was 16. Our relationship was kind of like a father-daughter, and so we did the same thing over and over every day. We had a routine and we would see 50 patients a day, and other doctors would just be like, how the hell do you guys do this? Our team was very well-oiled machine. We trusted each other. We were the A team, and he only took the people that were fast, intelligent, who can think for themselves, who has the initiative to act. Because when you're in life or death situations, you have to know what to do. You have to use your instincts. I was scribing for him. While he would be examining patients, I would be in the background typing everything, writing his clinical notes, sending orders. I really had a crash course on learning medicine. And after work, I would stay late reading other doctors' clinical notes. I would help him review radiology, labs, just whatever I can do to help him. It was all way too over my head because I was just a sophomore learning about biology. I watched him not just emotionally be there, but to really be present and think so fast critically. When we were in life or death situations, it was full on intuition. It was so instinctual, but we were still using our brains. We were just in flow. We knew what to do. We had our protocols embedded in our subconscious. We were just weaving depending on different cases, and we always worked as a team. It was a lot of pattern recognition and really being a systems thinker. One of the most crucial things I learned is that a wrong decision is better than not making a decision at all. I had to really think fast and be really precise because if I sent a wrong order or a wrong dose, wrong way of taking meds, I can really kill someone. And I learned to fully trust myself with repetition and not be afraid to ask for help or clarity. He did everything so meticulously with precision. Senators and governors would call him. They trusted him with their lives. Going back to my training, I learned how to assimilate, to read the room. He had so many different hacks or how to communicate, just being a good leader. So when you're leveling up, you learn to read people, what to do, what they need, what they want. How do you talk to them? Their mannerism. If you can't assimilate, you are not one of their kind. How can you position yourself to be the one that they trust? I learned to put myself in other people's shoes, to think like them, to see their point of view, and to really listen to understand, then take the next indicated action. I knew what to do before he even said it. And so for 10 years, I was working with him until unfortunately he caught COVID and he passed away. That was really scary because that could have been me and I could have died because we were always together. We were always seeing patients together. During that time, during COVID, I saw a lot of people die. And it was one of those moments where it really scared me enough to not live my life to its full potential. I left healthcare because there was way too many problems in the inside. It was hard to fix. The doctors are apathetic about it. I wanted to do something else and meet other people. So I left on a whim. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just knew that my higher self had a plan. I just had to trust and to listen. I wanted to work on my website and start building my business. I was at this cafe, middle of the day. This is my Pokemon hunting hours. And I quickly learned about this because you see, you need to get out of the 9 to 5 routine because the real players of the game are out grabbing coffee or lunch, having meetings somewhere. And I've connected with people in elevators, sitting on benches, art galleries. I was open to anything. I was ready to just receive and meet new characters in my movie. During those hours, while the NPCs are working, the real players are out getting data sets, and you will stumble upon them. You just have to be open and start really being interesting. I would just ask my higher self, like, where are you taking me today? What do we need to learn today? Your intuition is always telling you something. Listening is such a vital skill because if you trust your intuition, it will tell you to go left, go right, stop, go, here. You like this, you don't like this. Listen. Really listen. Use your discernment and figure out which are true to me, which ones are not true to me. Does my body say yes or does my body say no? When it was time, another mentor came And I met him at this cafe. He saw me designing, he was very curious. I was great at making people open up because of the skills that I learned in healthcare. I can build rapport in 5 to 10 minutes, read and know what they deeply want and need. It turns out that he was the CEO of UPS, and I didn't even need to apply. I told him everything about my past mentor, and I wanted to learn more about business. I used my vulnerability and honesty, my truth. He hired me. He showed me all of his systems. I got to see everything behind the curtain. A lot of times we focus so much on our hard skills, but we neglect and forget about our soft skills. And having soft skills is the thing that builds connection. And connection is so important in building effortless influence. You have trust, vulnerability, precision, and action. Be open to feedback, iterate, and learn again. I was so terrible with money, but I was forced to learn it. I was managing teams. I had 30 people under me. He made me go to different stores. I was doing a lot of financial things too. He made me do so much spreadsheet, marketing, operations, and so many more. He wanted to put me in all different aspects of his business to really learn from the top down. He wanted me to learn new systems and new ways of thinking. And this was so difficult for me because I'm very intuitive. I use my emotions. Being in healthcare, it's a lot different than using more logic. So I was using my other part of my brain. We were building this neural network. It was like a hub for everything, collaborating with big companies like Amazon, Disney, etc. So much logistics. I was learning about databases and I saw how other small businesses were operating. So within shipping and logistics, there's really just USPS, FedEx, UPS, DHL, and they pretty much are the ones that, are moving packages everywhere. I realized how vital shipping was because if your packages are late, people are going to get mad. Food is not going to get delivered. Amazon was one of our biggest partners. They were already implementing a lot of AI tools, more automation. It's really hard when you're changing systems because it's like you're performing brain surgery. You have to really make small changes while not killing the whole system. I saw things that were inefficient. It was weak foundation and it was a sinking ship hanging on a thread. He didn't have an A team. The turnover was high. There was lack of trust. Overhead was crazy. And so that calling came again. It was time for me to jump ship. I learned a lot about business and it was my time to go full in on my business. After that, people just ask me, did you just quit? It was one of those moments where I've just been putting off going full time on my business, but I knew I had the skills already. And if I was never going to do it, other people will just keep telling me what to do. And I really hated people telling me what to do. I don't know why I was so scared, but I had to do a lot of nervous system regulation to really trust myself that I can do it. And it was the only way. If I don't start my business, other people will have control of my time, other people will have control of my money. Going back to my first mentor, Dr. Tanner, he was a paratrooper and he was one of those doctors that would jump out of planes for combat. He taught me to just jump and you will never know what you will discover. I only listen to people whose life I want and who I deeply respect. Time is the most valuable resource. I knew I wanted to be decentralized. I hate getting told what to do because I'm meant to lead. And so building a personal brand was my top mission. This was crucial because I needed visibility. If I wanted to be relevant, if I wanted to create an impact, change, and have that effortless influence, I had to assert my dominance. I had to figure out, how can people find me? How can they know about me? What am I helping them for? I knew that I was good with my intuition and I had the systems from all the skills that I learned from my previous jobs. I can teach about my experiences. So my first month I made $10,000. My second month I made 12K, then 15K, then 17K. I knew I just needed to be consistent at it. Eventually I found Art Crypto, which amazing platform. They teach about how to safely invest, especially in DeFi, in crypto, all of those things. Being in the right community at the right place at the right time is so crucial. It's who you know that will help you become more successful. The more trainings I got, different coaches, my character was getting built more and more. It was getting refined. I've always been drawn to the mystical arts, Harry Potter, magical themes, superheroes. This fascination that I have is not just about the stories, it was this underlying, deep seated desire for power and invincibility. I wanted to help more people. I had always been surrounded by great men, from my grandpa, from my dad, my uncles, my mentors. It felt like throughout my whole life, it's been a training ground preparing me to become the best version of myself. One of the things that I help my clients navigate through what they're meant to do in this life is by using our astrology. It is our map. When we came here, the universe gave us this tool so that we don't have to go through life blindly. You just need to learn how to use a map and read this map. Eventually, my path became clearer and clearer. I knew who I wanted to be, where I was heading. Shortcuts aren't bad. You just need to take calculated risk. The best people I knew who were really good with money are the ones that can turn off their feelings, separate money from what they're feeling. And meditation is so important. Never listen to people whose life you don't want. Only take constructive criticism from people you respect. Having a business and being a creator is not just a career choice. It is the ultimate form of self-development. It's about bringing something unique from the mind into reality, offering something intangible to the world that only you can create. Start with being clear. Assign yourself a role. Who are you? Who do you want to be? The moment you understand what type of person you want to be, then you can navigate through the next indicated action. And this goes both ways. When you're around other people, understand what kind of person is in front of you. If you just stop, feel, and listen, you will immediately know what their patterns are, where their fears are, and earning people's trust is how you can gain effortless influence. We don't follow the person who is the loudest and most confident. We follow the person who is easy to follow. Self-mastery, embodiment, and conscious observation, how you communicate, are keys to shifting the filters through which you interpret your experience. Real confidence only lives in a body that feels safe with itself. That is embodiment. Confidence is not who you are, but it is who you decide to become. Who am I now? Who will I then become? It becomes a habit. You step into that role. So if you see a firefighter, an EMT, a doctor, a CEO, a policeman, they know what to do and they're confident about it because they trained for that role. That role will give you permission. It gives you composure. And that composure gives you power. The world does not respond to your insecurities. It responds to your signaling, your commanding. And that signal starts when you decide what role you are in. You deciding a role, that's you sending out your signal. Because confidence doesn't come when you're ready. It comes because you move and act regardless. You're a rocket, a jet, breaking the sound barrier, defying your own gravity. You have to take space. You have to take action. No one is going to knight you to feel confident. It is up to you to decide. The only permission is to act, to trust your own voice, that I am built for this, that I have the superpower, so you stop looking for proof. You install your own permission. Power is energy and vitality. It is self-love in action. We are most often scared to admit that we want power because what we see is power dynamics and collapse. When power dynamics is working in perfect harmony, this is what we call a connection, chemistry, synergy. Your life force, your desires, is the gas that moves you. You will slowly lose power and you won't notice it until it's gone. That's why people feel so numb, they don't feel alive anymore. They're basically walking dead. And that's also what happens to your mitochondria. If you're running 70% you won't feel that much of a difference. If you're running 50, 15%, 3%, until you feel crap all the time because you have no more energy. That life force is gone. You see it in people's skin, you see it in people's eyes. There's just no vitality. This results in low motivation, no sexual drive, no desire, depression, anxiety, because it is a misuse of power. That fire can be turned back up. There exists a true power that is regenerative. When that person who is in authority is paying attention, how that attention is working, how it is impacting the other person, and they calibrate accordingly. Power and confidence, composure, is the kind of energy that makes the animal and everyone feel safe to offer their genuine resources, their intelligence, their care, their devotion, their creativity, their labor. People love it when they can relax. And there is also great power in a person who can surrender well. If you are embodied, you can feel it. Everything else self-regulates. In many fields, the pathways to power are controlled predominantly by male networks and hierarchies. This can be very difficult for women to gain mentorship, sponsorships, and opportunities they need to advance. That's because they're using the 3D way and not energetics. Embodiment is really important because it is where the information is landing, where it is going in other people and within yourself. And there is always this invisible string between you and who's commanding that energy. I'm going to tell you one last story. I was in with a patient with Dr. Tanner, and this was a psych patient. He was asking us for more narcotics, and he got really angry because the system had failed him. He felt hopeless. He had a gun, and he threatened us, and it was just me and him in the room. I froze, and he was able to talk him out of it. If he wasn't composed and did not have the confidence, who knew what would have happened? I safely got out of the room, and it was just him, and they talked to each other. Eventually, we calmed him down, we called the cops, and then he left. A person with that kind of presence is usually the one that has practiced expanding their field of attention and holding everybody and calibrating accordingly. Precision, listening, feeling is a skill that most people ignore and focus on logistics instead. But discernment is one of those soft skills, most important skill anyone should have, that is really hard to get because it requires immense self-trust. Discernment is the ability to be able to perceive what is true and what is not. It is alignment from distortion. This is an energetic skill, like an inner compass. It involves intuition, somatic intelligence, emotional regulation, and higher knowing. This is the wisdom behind your yes and your no. This feeling is right or this feeling is off. Discernment is a multisensory intelligence. It might express through claircognizance. Most commonly, it can show up as clairalience or your smell, clairgustance, your taste, if that's how your system translates subtle energies. When you really get into deeper studies of Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, it's refining these subtle sensitivities. When clients have a difficult time holding attention, I work with anger. Sometimes they will stop or they won't surrender. Apathy turns into rage, and then it turns into empowerment. Apathy is disconnection. It is numbness. The system is frozen. No access to desire or direction. Then comes rage. This is the first spark. The energy starts to move. It can be chaotic, raw, dangerous, or it can feel overwhelming. After your rage turns into empowerment. Rage that is refined becomes clarity, boundaries, mission. You stop fighting against and start fighting for something. This is where you can start to really find your purpose. If somebody is sad, sadness turns into surrendering. Surrendering turns into receptivity. Sadness is a descent, but it is a softening. This is often avoided because it brings us into vulnerability. Once somebody starts to surrender, then that sadness is truly felt It opens the gates to more trust, more yielding, and the flow of connection. After that, you have receptivity. This is when true receiving happens, expansion, letting love in, support, life without shrinking. Another example is fear. Oftentimes, when my clients feel a lot of fear, that fear will turn into stillness, and that stillness will turn into instinctual knowledge. Fear is this contraction inwards, so the animal in the body starts to recoil. Once you get over to that fear, that bridges into stillness. When fear is held, not shamed, it turns into this deep presence, and so that movement starts to slow down. When you can access that stillness, this is when you can really tap into your instinctual intelligence. You gain access to wisdom from your body. There is precision. There is this primal truth. This is what we call the force. Embodiment is the portal. And so this season, where Neptune is finally in Aries, many women will rise. They will feel more empowered again. You are the sum of all the people you surround yourself with, all of your experiences, the books that you read, the videos that you watch. Your taste will matter more than ever. These emotions don't need to be fixed. They need to be felt and honored. Every emotion has a higher octave, and when we allow it to move through the body's intelligence, confidence is a skill. It is buildable and you can transfer it. In my sessions, I expand people, and every time they leave my session, I hope that I can awaken something in them to face the fears that has been holding them back for a long time, to trust themselves that they have the parachute and the ground to land on, because I know that you have the tools in your backpack too. You just need permission to use them. So, how about this? Let's start with clearing your energy and boosting your mitochondrial energy. Light is energy, light is information, and light is power. I have a preview meditation, but if you want the full transmission and activation, I will link it down below. You won't find this anywhere because this is channeled from my own gnosis and intelligence, my own initiation that has taken years to perfect, and now you can have it too. There is really no price for this kind of work because it's raw energy. I'm reweaving your inorganic blueprint, tech that science doesn't have yet, but you will feel it. You will start to slowly regain energy, more power, more clarity, less fog, deep cellular frequencies that will penetrate the deepest parts of your microbiology. I have the link down below if you are serious about becoming and staying one of the new humans. I've had tons of reviews from my clients, and I know that it works. That is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Peace.